Well, today on That's Classic, we have somebody that I have wanted to talk with for a very long time. Somebody that I've always, just looked up to. But today we have none other than Barbara Eden from I Dream of Jeannie. So, Barbara, thank you so much for being on today.
I'm so happy to be here, John.
Well,
I think I'm here.
Well, it's just a thrill to have you on. So I'll tell you what, just to start talking about I Dream of Jeannie right out of the gates, I had Patrick Duffy on actually just this past week. And he obviously worked with Larry Hagman as well. And he has this good guy reputation, but Larry, not such a great reputation. And I feel like it's the same with you. You have this very, good person, all around reputation. And, Larry, of course, had a very different reputation. How were you able to work together?
Larry was a beautiful soul. He really was.
Mm-hmm.
He was his own worst enemy. He was wonderful with me. We had a great working time. He was a very good actor. That's what I appreciated, because we sort of were on the same rhythm. I can't explain it, but
Mm-hmm.
everything we did was honest. It was truthful. And that's what you try to find in acting, is the truth and to be honest. We accepted those parts that we were doing, and it was great. It was fun. He was, I don't know, Larry was tormented. He always had a problem, but never, ever working with me. Never, really.
When the cameras weren't rolling and you were offset, what was your relationship like during those moments?
He was always, as my husband said, he said he was very supportive of me, actually. I traveled with him to Australia. Wonderful. He was, and I've been with him in Germany. He was very careful that the press weren't too strong, there.
Yeah.
But he, Larry was quite ill, and he had a liver transplant.
Yeah.
Just to tell you the dichotomy that was going on in his life, he had a liver transplant, but he was drinking wine.
Oh boy.
And it broke my heart.
Oh.
But this was Larry. He was. I don't know, very, was very set to do what he wanted to do, that was it. But honestly, he was as far as I was concerned, he was a lovely, lovely man. Now, if you talk about other actors, he was capable of being very jealous with men. We would have stars on the set, and he'd joke and make laughs, and wasn't always to that star's benefit.
Wow. Do you remember any in particular that were there at the time?
Sammy Davis Jr. We had Sammy on, and yes, as you know, you do the main scene and then the coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And it was time for Sammy's close-up, and Larry and I were off camera. It was really kind of funny, but it isn't funny if you're working,
Yeah, of course not.
To how the kids do in high school or college, they spit and let the spit hang, and see how long they can let it hang before they let it out. Yeah, he did that while Sammy was saying his lines, and and Sammy was a tiny little guy, and Larry's big. He just dove across the camera at Larry. And Larry was laughing. He said, I'm just being funny. It's okay, But it wasn't okay.
Oh, wow. So he was a bit of a prankster, obviously, too. Yeah.
He was a prankster, but in that case, it was negative. It wasn't a fun prank.
No, I get you. I totally get you. Well, even Patrick Duffy said, look, he had his other side, but he was my best friend. So That's pretty great to hear from both of you guys on that.
Well, he was actually a lovely, sensitive guy, but he was like a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
He had that little boy side that didn't want to be told what to do, and
yeah, that little twinkle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any say, by the way, in how Jeannie would be played as a character?
Yes, I did. I did. He, except for a very short space of time, I was left alone for it. Yeah.
Huh.
It was. Yeah. He just. Well, we made a pilot, and the pilot got very high numbers, and so did Jeannie. So I guess they wanted to keep her that way. Good for me, because it worked out a whole thing before I ever did the pilot. A whole
bio.
Well, for me, for the Jeannie.
What were your main qualities that you were trying to express when you looked at the character?
That she was honest to a fault, and it was a whole new world for her. It was like bringing a new puppy home.
Yeah.
Everything's interesting, everything's wonderful. How in the world do you do this? And then she'd been cooped up for a while in that bottle.
Yeah.
Happy, woo, happy to be out of that bottle. I had several things that I used, but I don't want to say because it's they're friends and things. And
I understand.
A lot of it was my little dog. I had a dog, a little poodle named Maggie, and she was so inquisitive and so happy to see the whole world. Always, and I her other people.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, I think that, sometimes people look at your character and think, oh, she was so bubbly, but you had such a huge acting background before you ever took on I Dream of Jeannie that I figured there had to be some kind of actor's work put into that beforehand. So it doesn't surprise me in the least that it shows. That's really amazing. You were mentioning your dog. There were, I know that there was that famous moment with the lion on set with Larry, and he ran away. Any recollection of that, or any other moments that were like that on set, where kind of had some crazy animal moments take place?
Well, the lion was the cherry on the sundae as far as all of the stories are concerned. Before I ever did I Dream of Jeannie, I was under contract to Fox. And I did many films, and one of the films was with Red Buttons, and we worked with a lion, a young lion, and wow. The trainer at the time said, "Come over. Now look, a lion is like any other animal. They want to know you. They want to smell you, know that you're not, aggressive. Yeah. But be careful because they can roll over and break your leg." So we went over, and this is a very young lion, and we met him, and he was not on a leash, not in a cage.
My gosh!
Yeah, he was lying there on the ground.
Whoa!
So during one of this is a film that took like 12 weeks to do. So in the film, Red Buttons and I were sitting in the ground, and we were having our lunch. And while we were having our lunch, I looked over Larry's shoulder. Oh! I forgot to tell you. The trainer did say this. He said, "Do not run. See the lion without me? Do not run.
Oh my gosh!
He does not want you. He's well fed. All he would want to do would be play with you if you run, like a cat would want to after a ball of yarn,
Oh man!
So then, during lunchtime, Red Buttons and I were sitting there, and I looked over his shoulder and I said, "Red, stay calm. The lion is out." He said, "What do you mean out?" I said, "He's out." And he was. There was no trainer, and he was standing there, and his tail twitching, like this. And Red, was a tiny little guy, and we were both dressed alike. We had bright plaid pants and a blouse.
Oh, I can totally picture it.
Oh, he jumped up, put his arms out, and said, get behind me, jumping up and down. I said, don't move. You're not supposed to move. And he said, the hell with that. Oh, my Lord. And the trainer came out and got the lion, of course. So I had that background.
Yeah.
And
big time.
I also had done a special on ABC, Love is Barbara Eden. And we had a live lion on that one also, who chewed up my chair, but but never chewed me, licked my arm,
Yeah.
So then comes I Dream of Jeannie, and I knew the lion was on the set, and I went to Larry and I said, Larry, we have to go make friends with the lion. He said, what? Like that? I said, we have to go over and make friends with the lion. He said, I'm not going to make friends with any blankety-blank lion. I said, okay. So I went over, and I scratched his ears, and I let him lick my hand. And
wow.
And then I rehearsed with him. Now, this was an older lion, like the MGM lion with the big mane.
Yeah, but that's a big lion. That's a big animal.
He was big, but he was sweet, very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a scene where I sat on a sofa, talking to Larry, telling him that I wanted my pet, and I was bored at home. And he said, okay. My master said, okay. And then, of course, the lion appeared in between us on the sofa.
Oh,
so
wow.
For rehearsal, I sat on the sofa, and I did all the stuff you have to do for magic. And the lion would come behind the sofa with his great big old paws over the top. And they'd put a bowl of meat beside me, and he'd eat his meat. He'd look around at everybody. He was just fine. He was lovely. And then Larry came in and sat down on the sofa. We had our little scene. They stopped the action on the camera, brought the lion in, looked around, and then he turned over and did a double take at Larry and growled. Well, I'll tell you, I didn't blame Larry for running, but so did the cameraman, the crew. The camera was on the ground. One of the sets fell down because they were getting out of the way. I was stuck on the sofa, but the lion climbed over the sofa, put his head in my lap, and started to purr.
Oh my gosh!
Like a big cat. He purred. Gave me a big lick on my arm and purred. I thought, but I probably would have been running if I'd been able to get up, but I couldn't. But I was fine. He was cute little kitty cat.
Oh my gosh, is that funny, Barbara? I mean, I'm sorry. Just the fact that all the men in the room ran, the set fell, everything, and you're just sitting there.
Well, I was stuck.
Yeah.
It was very fast, but it was good. But honestly, I was not afraid.
Wow.
I wasn't afraid because I'd rehearsed with him, and, he hadn't done a thing. He was fine.
Wow, that is really impressive. Well, let me ask you another one. The opening scene, I've always wondered about this, that, where Major Nelson finds the genie bottle on the beach at Zuma, which was shot at Zuma Beach. What was that day like, actually, in reality? Was that, from your recall, was it like a real warm day, or was it cold out? What was actually the reality of the situation?
It was freezing cold. They never do films when you're in a bathing suit or a nightie like I had on for Jeannie.
Yeah.
It's always cold. So it was just freezing. And I think it's the first time one of the guys in the great big trucks asked me to come up and sit in the truck with him. And I'd never had, actually at that time, a drink in my life. And he said, here, take a nip of this. Just a sip. But it was, oh my God, it was cold, really.
Wow. Well, good acting, I'll say that, because you have no sense of that at the time. We're the actual interior of the house, by the way, I was always curious. Have you seen it? Or did you realize it was used for other shows as well as your own?
The interior? No. The exterior, yes.
The exterior. Oh, well, yeah, actually, maybe you're correct on that. I'm sorry. I just realized you're right. Yeah,
Yeah,
the exterior.
That was the farm, I think they called it, in the valley. They had this big city street, and they also a street for homes, and our exterior was, yes, on that. And many shows were used for that, but they tried to make it different for each show.
And one that I get asked all the time, a friend of mine that has also done the show he has a bottle, one of the Jeannie bottles or whatever. How many Jeannie bottles were there? Were there like a lot of them on set, or was it just a few?
No, there had to be a lot of them because they were broken, in use. They were Jim Beam bottles. The whiskey bottle for that Christmas.
Yeah.
And people still bring me bottles to autograph with the original Jim Beam sign on it. Yeah, it's a beautiful bottle. I'm looking at it right now.
Wow. So was it like a like shelf, like a big shelf full of them, and it was like, oh, here we go, here's another one.
Oh no, I don't know. It was the guy who handled all the magic and everything. He had the bottles, and they weren't. No, they'd magically appear from somewhere on the the studio.
Right.
But they were all hand painted.
Wow. I mean, that's crazy. And you have one yourself. That's pretty cool.
I gave mine to the Smithsonian.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd had it in a safety deposit box for a long time because we had a severe earthquake, I guess the Northridge earthquake.
Yeah, it was like 90s, wasn't it? Is that right? Yeah.
90, something like that. I've forgotten the year. But at the time, in our library, all the books were taken off the shelves.
Sure.
We couldn't open the door into the library. In fact, it was so packed.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. All our dishes were broken, everything. The refrigerator door was open. Everything in the fridge was out on the floor in the kitchen. But
oh, my gosh.
But we pushed books aside in order to open the door a crack. And we looked inside, and there was a pile of books up like a pyramid.
Wow.
At the top, and right up at the top was the Jeannie bottle.
Come on.
And it wasn't broken, and it was fine, and it was just landing right on top. So after that, I put it in the bank.
Oh my gosh, that's an incredible moment. That must have been kind of wild just to look in there and see that bottle sitting on the top like that.
It was, because everything else was broken and a mess,
Wow. Yeah, I live in LA myself, and I was here for that earthquake, and that was insane, but that's one of the coolest stories I've ever heard from that. That's really something. Wow. Did the other one that I've wondered about is the Jeannie outfits. I understood that they could easily tear or whatever, that it was a constant process of like having them repaired, and there were multiple outfits. Is that true?
Oh, well, yeah. She was quite active. And, and Jeannie had a tiny heel on her shoe, not a big one. But if she was doing anything physical, pants would get ripped, and they'd have to replace or fix the pants, with different fabric. Sure, of course it is. With anything that goes on that long, 5 years, you're going to have accidents.
Yeah, I bet. Well, that was such a unique outfit. Jeez. By the way, did you have any say in that? Out of curiosity, any say in the actual outfit?
Only the color. I'm trying to remember the woman who designed it. I had worked with her at MGM on a film. I wish I could remember her name. I can't. Gwen Wakeling? Is that her name? Gwen Wakeling, I think.
Wow.
Anyway, she asked, do I have any favorite colors? And I said, I like pink, I like purple, I like,
Wow.
But pink. And she said, that's a good choice. And she signed it.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. By the way, at the time, I mean, I've done a bunch of reading on I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched, and and the tie-in with Bill Asher, even directing, I think the Jeannie 15 years later. Was there any sense of competition with that show at the time?
There certainly wasn't on my part,
Uh-huh.
or anyone else on the. But you see, we started a year later,
Right.
and I think the other show had a little problem. They never talked to me about it, and that's showbiz.
Yeah, exactly. It's just part of it. Another one that I know, like, fans out there are going to say, "Why didn't you ask?" Is what was? Do you have favorite episodes?
Well, the pilot.
Hmm.
I loved the pilot. I thought it was well done. Gene Nelson directed it, and
Wow.
it was just a good show.
Yeah. The by the way, I read that you were approached by Sidney Sheldon. How did Sidney Sheldon approach you or find you?
I think personally,
Yeah.
well, first of all, I knew about the show because I read Variety and Reporter.
Mm-hmm.
I knew they were testing for this part, but I never in a million years thought I would get it.
Wow.
And nor did I even try to get it, because he was testing all the very tall Mediterranean types. He had Miss Israel, he had Miss Greece, Miss Italy,
oh my
all the
gosh.
beauty contest winners, which were gorgeous women with very dark hair and tall, long legs. And so I put it away, as far as I was concerned. And then one day my agent sent me a script. I read it, and I recognized the script immediately. And I thought, my goodness, what is this about? My agent called me and said, "Do you like the script?" I said, "I think it's wonderful." He said, "Well, good, because they want you for the part."
Oh,
and
what?
I said, "Do they know what I look like?" That's the first thing I said. And he said, "Well, they must." But he said, "All you have to do is go have tea with Sidney Sheldon at the Beverly Hills Hotel."
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so I had tea with Sidney, and that's how I got the part.
I mean, were you just blown away?
I was surprised. I was very surprised, but happy. But he never told me how he happened to choose me. I never had to test or do anything for the part. But I think, I truly believe, because in later years when we had dinner at Sidney's, there would be all these comedy writers.
Mm-hmm.
Before I ever did Jeannie, I did a lot of comedy.
Yeah.
And especially the Johnny Carson show. I did comedy sketches with him.
Yeah, you were a semi-regular on that show, correct?
Yeah, on his original summer replacement show he had, yeah.
Yeah.
And he replaced Red Skelton for the summer. And that was one of my first jobs. And I met those men because Sidney Sheldon was a comedy writer, and he knew all these men from Paramount. And looking back, I think that's what happened. They just said, "This is a girl who can do comedy." That's I'm guessing. I'm just guessing. But I'm glad. I'm very happy that he did it.
That's a good guess, by the way, but I think your theory may be the strongest there for sure, because that makes a lot of sense. I could see a lot of those comedy writers having been during that time. What, by the way, since we mentioned Johnny, what was Johnny? Because this was very early on. Am I correct? This is like mid 1950s, with
late 50s.
Late 50s. What middle. What was Johnny like then? I mean, boy, that's really early on.
He was fun. He was fun. He was of course, I was just out of acting school, so
yeah,
I was having a ball.
Wow.
when you've been in intense studying theater and doing all kinds of very straight things, to work with Johnny and do the comedy was so so much fun. Oh my goodness, it was fun.
Oh, that's so cool. Did now the other thing that I've seen is you were a chorus girl at Ciro's. Was there any kind of discovery made from them seeing you there or anything like that?
The only discovery was that I was awful. I I should never have been there. I was living at the Hollywood Studio Club, and I was working in a bank because I, I had to pay the rent.
Yeah, of course.
And one of the girls in the studio club said, because I was working in a bank at night, so I could audition during the day.
Wow.
And I was coming home late at night, and she was coming down the stairs. I was going up. She said, "What are you doing up so late?" Because studio club, they closed the doors at a certain time, and you were locked out.
Wow.
Unless you were working. And I said, "I'm coming home from work." She said, "Where do you work?" I said, "I've forgotten the name of the bank downtown L.A." She said, "Oh." She said, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm an actress." She said, "Oh, where are you coming? What are you doing now?" I said, I was at work." "Where?" "At the bank." She said, "I thought you said you were an actress." And I said, I am, but I'm working at the bank at night." She said, "Well, why don't you come up to Ciro's and audition with me?" She said,
Wow.
they need girls." And I said, I'm not a dancer." And
Wow.
she said, "Well, neither am I." And so I went up and I auditioned. I don't know how I got it because I had studied dancing. Of course, when you study theater, you study dancing, you study
Sure.
fencing, all that baloney. But
Right.
I had never worked in a situation where I had to learn someone else's dance steps. So it was and the girls were so mean to me. Oh boy.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it was horrible because they called me the little virgin.
Oh geez.
It was awful. It was worse than high school, I'll tell you.
Wow.
But I will be forever grateful to that girl because I did not go back to the bank. I stayed and gutted it out, and it really helped me. It taught me a lot of lessons, and it
Wow.
was interesting. Actually, you know what they did? I can
What?
laugh now. I didn't then.
Yeah.
They locked me in the bathroom, so I couldn't
What?
get out from my entrance. Yes. Oh God! I'll tell you, it was worse than high school, but
That is.
it certainly did toughen me up and got me ready for everything. I never had any situation happen like that before or after.
Oh my gosh. And that was, I mean, Ciro's was like, I mean, top of the line. I mean, you were at like the place that, everyone would have been going at that time. That's pretty neat.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you'd get people asking if you wanted to go out, and I never would. I guess that's why they called me the little virgin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went home. I went home after work.
Right. Right. Oh yeah. I'm sure I could totally see that. So I got another one for you that I was always curious about. I saw in one of your interviews that you mentioned that the genie smoke, the smoke from the bottle, was never supposed to be like coming out of the master bedroom at night, something like that. Is that true?
Oh, anytime, day or night.
Oh, oh,
Well, actually, and I was not supposed to be in the bedroom. This was standards and practices,
oh, wow.
that came in. It was sort of silly. We all laughed about it because, first of all, Jeannie wasn't a human, okay? She was
Right.
an entity.
That's
So
right.
she couldn't do anything with him, although, well, we won't get into the wedding because I thought that was silly. But
Yeah.
at any rate, at that time, the smoke was just smoke, and it became this entity, which is a genie, and happens to be female. But that's it, not human.
Right.
And they said she can't come in the bedroom, and the bottle can't be in the bedroom. But we had this wonderful scene where you see the closed door, and you hear my master say, "Jeannie," the way he did.
Yeah.
And then the smoke came out from underneath the door. We thought it was very funny. Standards and Practices did not.
That is crazy that it was like that time. And what by the way, I mean, we should probably address that. Yeah, I have read that. Yes, you were not a big fan of the fact that they got married. Is that pretty true?
Oh yeah. They should never have married. She wasn't a housewife,
Right.
you know. She was a genie, an entity,
Mm-hmm.
a different breed, if you want to say.
Yeah.
You don't mix the human and entity. You don't do it.
Right.
And besides that, that's where all the fun came.
Yeah.
That they were so different, and he knew it. She wouldn't accept it.
Yeah, completely. That's so funny. What, by the way, the other one is the navel, the big, what's the real story about the whole, got to be careful about showing your navel. What was that all about? I mean, that seems really crazy to me.
There was a man, Mike Connolly of the Hollywood Reporter.
Mm-hmm.
He would come down on the set and he'd say, "I don't believe you have one," meaning a navel.
What?
And I tell him, nickel a peek. I was very inexpensive at that time. Because every once in a while in the show, it would peek out. But no one made a big deal about it until Mike started to write about it. And
oh my gosh.
For some reason, it caught on, and all the stringers across the country began to write about it. And wouldn't you know, Standards and Practices came down and said, no. You have to cover up the navel. You have to put, and my leggings at that time were sheer, the pantaloons.
Yeah.
And under those pantaloons, I not only had panty stockings, I also had panties.
Oh so my gosh!
And they said, no. You have to put a thicker material inside. It was so silly. Nowadays, it really is silly, isn't it? But then, even then, it was, what in the world?
My gosh! It really got to that point. That is just crazy. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So the very first season, you get the role, and you are pregnant with your son Matthew. What I think you initially reading it, you're like, oh, that's great that they allowed you, and they still wanted you and all of that, and all that's terrific. But what was it like for you that first season being pregnant? Because obviously women go through a lot of different things when you're pregnant. Was it difficult for you to shoot that first season?
Oh, it was the most wonderful thing in the world.
Wow.
I was so happy. Michael Ansaro was my husband, and we had been trying to have a baby, but the timing, I guess, was really off. And when I found out the same day that I found out that the show was picked up.
Wow.
Put on the air. So I called Sidney Sheldon and said, I have to talk to you. And he said, well, I can't. I don't have time. I said, this is very important. I have to talk to you.
Wow.
So he was having dinner at Buck Henry's house.
Oh, wow.
And I drove over there, and Sidney took me into the library, and I sat down. I said, now tell me, you're pregnant. And I said, yes, and I can't do your show like that. And he said, what? He was joking. And I said, no, I understand. I can't do your show.
Oh my gosh!
And he said, well, now, just wait. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. I said, okay. I didn't expect it, but he did.
Wow.
He did figure it out, and decided they'd do the first 13 shows quickly. Because of that, they were in black and white because we did it so quickly.
Yeah.
But I had a good time. In fact, I was pregnant when the lion was there.
Oh, no way. Really?
Yeah. Oh. I was. But I was so happy. I wasn't sick a day.
Wow.
The most beautiful thing that ever happened in my life.
Oh, that's so special. It makes you wonder, about when you were talking about the lion. The fact that you were pregnant, because obviously they're very intuitive too. The lion might have known, the lion might have been protecting you actually a little bit.
Oh, well, you know what, John? I don't think lions, yeah, they do. They protect the children
Mm-hmm.
and the females, but the females are much more ferocious than the male lion. They don't, the male lions don't really go out and hunt and do all that stuff. They're
Wow.
lazy.
Wow, that's hysterical. Hey, the other one that has come up many times is your evil sister, and I kid you not. I mean this in the best way, Barbara. I've had people that have also written me and said, "I'll be honest with you. I didn't. When I was younger, I didn't realize it was the same person." And how did you enjoy playing the evil sister?
Oh, I loved her, darling. My favorite person in the whole wide world. That silly little twit. No, I loved playing her. My gosh, that keeps you sane, doing different parts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. By the way, did you play? Was it your mother on the show too, or some other
Yes, I
relative?
did. I played my mother.
Yeah. Was that kind of what did obviously not many of us get the chance to play, our parents. What was that like for you?
Well, again, I loved it. Nothing like my own mother, of course. She wasn't, but I loved it. I loved playing it.
Oh, that's so cool. Did you, by the way, I know that you're right in that time period of, when the residuals, they started in like 1970 or anything like that. First of all, do you get any kind of residuals from I Dream of Jeannie?
I very small, yes.
Okay.
I Yeah, I'm trying to think back. Oh, I remember what happened. I was,
Yeah.
we did get, yeah, residuals were not a question. That's SAG, and they took care of that. But there was a matter of overtime,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, and which we did a lot. We worked long hours, so there was a lot of overtime, but I wasn't getting any. And
Wow.
and and the only reason I knew about it was because Larry would say, "Look at this! Look what I got in overtime," you know. And I'd look and I'd think, "I was there. What happened?"
Right.
So, so it was. I started writing it down, my hours. I had never paid attention before.
How
I wrote it
interesting.
down, and then finally I showed my agent, and I said, there's. I think I'm owed quite a few dollars here. So, and a friend of mine was an attorney, and
Wow.
you bet it was it was my overtime, and I hadn't. They just simply hadn't given it to me.
Oh my gosh. Did they come around? Was everything all
Oh, they
status
had
quo?
to. They had to. They had to look at their books and and first, I wrote everything down. After Larry told me that, I
Hmm.
wrote, God bless Larry.
Yeah, no
I
kidding.
I wrote every single thing down. So my attorney told me, he said, because he had friends who were attorneys and accountants at Columbia,
Yeah.
and they said, it's very strange. Every single thing she has is exactly what we have on our books. And I said, that's not strange. I wrote it all down.
Right.
But yeah, that was the only discrepancy in my.
Well, I'm glad you took care of it. Believe me. What about obviously there was a lot of merchandising going on there as well. The genie dolls, and I think there was a Barbie doll. What?
Oh yeah, lots.
Yeah. Have you ever been able to, or participate in any of the merchandising?
Oh, sure, of course.
Oh.
From the get go. Oh yes, that was never a fact. A problem. Never a
Oh.
problem.
Oh
Even
my
now.
gosh, Barbara, I'm so glad to hear that. That's terrific. I can't tell you how
Well,
many people I've talked to that they didn't have they weren't able to. That's great.
no, they were everything.
Wow.
Now, of course, they can. I'm not. For instance, the cartoon genie. I had no revenue from that because they didn't use my face or my likeness or my name. But anything that has my name and likeness is sure.
Fantastic. Geez. Did the one gosh, what was the one thing I was going to ask you? Oh, you also were with Larry Hagman in a Howling in the Woods, and very different characters, really. What was that like playing different roles, even though the two of you are together in that?
Oh, how do I explain it? What was it like? It was like any other job, two actors working together. We were different characters, but you expect that. It was also, after Jeannie, you just go on and you work. I did, I did How to Marry a Millionaire before I ever did Jeannie.
Right.
And then after that, I did Harper Valley PTA.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Did you? By the way, was that an enjoyable experience, Harper Valley?
Oh yes, it was. It really was. I loved it. An entirely different character to play. That's what actors do. They act.
Yeah, I loved the show. I mean, I love the song too, but I love the show. It was a shame it didn't stay on, by the way. I wish it had continued. There were a couple of films, by the way, that I had wanted to ask you about. One was A Private's Affair with Sal. Sal Mineo was in that. Did you get to know Sal at all?
He was sweet. He was just a very nice young man. I don't know that he didn't become a friend. But he was wonderful to work with.
Yes, stunning actor.
Carrie Moore, I know today. She's an acquaintance. See her every once in a while. Have lunch with her every once in a while.
Wow. What? And then the other one is Flaming Star with Elvis Presley. What? I had Pat Priest on from the Munsters, and Pat was in a film with Elvis and had her own take on Elvis. What was it like for you to work with Elvis?
It was lovely. He was a gentleman. He had a great work ethic. He wanted to act, and he did. He was a wonderful natural actor. In fact, he got super good reviews in that film.
Wow.
But he didn't sing. And they brought us all back after the end because the film got good reviews. It was a wonderful Western, and he played a half-breed, and he did it well. I spent a lot of time with Elvis on that film, as you do when you do feature films.
Sure.
His father was there, and several of his friends from from Nashville, who I thought were his cousins. In later years, they told me they weren't. But
right.
At the time, I a lot of cousins, but they would sing, and Elvis would play the guitar, and Daddy was there. It was very pleasant. We talked a lot. As a matter of fact, he was a huge fan of my husband's, Michael and Sarah.
Wow.
Who played Cochise, on the Broken Arrow.
Oh, of course.
And he asked me, he said, you're both in the business and you're both working. He said, how do you do that when it's so intense and so, pressure? And I said, well, any job is pressure, first of all. Work, that's all. It's just work. He said, yeah, but you get pressure for other people. He doesn't affect your marriage? And I said, no, because we know we're working,
Wow.
And it's nothing more than that. And he said, well, I've met this girl in Germany, and I really love her a lot, but I just thinking about it, I don't know if I should bring her over into this mess. And I said, it's not a mess. If you love her.
Wow.
Of course, I didn't know she was 14 years old at the time.
Right.
I didn't know that, but it was none of my business. But
no.
But it was sweet, and he was just a great young man. And
wow.
I'm so sorry that he died the way he did. He didn't have to. He, as I say, he was pressured.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
They show a little of that in the film, Elvis, but I'm so sorry because I really liked him a lot, and he was very talented. Always.
Did you feel like in the new movie, although they showed the pressure, did you feel like the pressure was even heavier than that?
I think the pressure was very subtle. It was there, and it was evil. They make it quite obvious in the movie, but mm-hmm. It's a great movie, by the way.
It is. I loved it.
It's really good, and the young man who plays Elvis is fabulous.
Austin Butler.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, wonderful. But I'm sure that Elvis himself didn't even realize that the pressure was there.
Wow. Well, Barbara, listen, just thank you. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It was just so wonderful talking with you. At some point, I would obviously love to see you, but it was wonderful to be able to talk with you.
Thank you. I would like to see you too. Would you have your makeup on?
Exactly.
I don't have it on in the morning, so. But we'll do it again, John.
All right. I would enjoy that. Thank you so much. I appreciate you 100%. You were fantastic. And you amaze me. I mean, I'm sorry. You amaze me. You are just still flying, at your age, it's like inspirational. So thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
All right. Take care of yourself.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Please hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell so you're notified when I release a new episode of That's Classic. And in case you missed any of the old episodes, go check them out, like Henry Winkler from Happy Days, or Jerry Mathers from Leave It to Beaver, or Judy Norton from The Waltons. There's so many. Enjoy.